Coming up, Amanda Wyss joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Hi, everyone. It's Illeana Douglas. Good afternoon. Welcome to the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Tamara Bird.
Hi, everybody.
It's so great to be here. It's an excuse not to be where I was, which is lying on the couch, coughing and sneezing, watching horror movies, scary movies.
That was me last show.
I know.
Glassy.
Glassy-eyed.
I walk in and you go, oh my God, you're so glassy. Do you really need to be here?
Yes. And now I've got it. The dreaded. It's the cold that'll last till next summer. But it does give you an excuse finally once you accept it. You just go, all right, it's going to be chicken soup and movies. So because it's 'tis the season.
Yes.
I did Rosemary's Baby with commentary.
Nice.
Which was fun. I did The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, the updated one with commentary, also very good. I did do because I knew Amanda was coming on the show.
Yes.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High with commentary. Everyone knows I'm addicted to commentary, and I had to do it. I watched The Shining, and I went for The Shining.
Ooh, good one.
Do you have favorite scary movies that you watch? What are yours?
I love Rosemary's Baby,
It's the
and
best.
a lot of it has to do with I don't know if I've talked about this actually on the show, but I had this kind of sadistic older sister who, when we were very young, like 6, 7 years, when I was like 6 or 7 years old, she's a huge horror film fan, and she would force me to watch these movies with her. And so we would be sitting in front of the TV, and I'd be all huddled up with my, my nightgown like up over my face, scared to death. And she'd like, yeah, we're gonna watch another one now. And so I have the, the kind of funny association of really wanting to impress my older sister, but also being terrified of the movies.
Yeah.
Trilogy of Terror was another one.
Oh, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was the one with Karen Black with a little miniature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of the Twilight Zones still really scare me
yes.
and are very disturbing, but that are still, kind of fun to watch. I still think The Shining.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, when he goes into that room and that woman comes out of the tub, there's nothing scarier. Of course, the twins. That just became a trope, didn't it?
Yes. Did you see a lot of people dressed up as the twins, and then
yes. There was
Halloween.
a lot of Betty Davises around.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm putting the link for this.
You're ignoring me.
I'm not. I'm putting this link on our.
I have to put up with.
No, Sweet Pea. I think you're one of the most interesting people I've ever met.
Since we're we're all over the map today, I want to send out, and I know we have questions, Twitter questions. I want to do a brief shout out to a very nice thank you to Dan Waters, not Daniel Waters, the director, but Dan Waters, an author of young adult novels, who wrote me a really beautiful and inspiring letter. And I always write people back that, write me nice, take the time to write letters like this, because my grandfather responded to a lot of letters and did a lot of nice things like that. And, sometimes these things arrive at the right time and they really cheer you up. And, when we're all trying to make movies and write books and do artistic things, and I feel like we all have to band together. So I really appreciated him listening to the show and watching the show, and we also have, what was our Twitter question?
Right, it was about
thoughtfully scribbled somewhere.
Yes, you did. So
yes.
One of our fans in
got notes.
The Twitterverse asked if you had specific directors that you appreciated that were new directors, ones who have come on the scene recently in the last 5 years.
I did.
If there were some that you wanted to discuss.
And I did. Of course, I had to put Damien Chazelle. I think, Whiplash was, such a great film, and La La Land was amazing. I really look forward to what his journey is going to be so young. The movies. Ava DuVernay, I think, has made I mean, obviously it's been over 5 years, but the films that she's made, I've been following and watching, and we showcase them on Trailblazing Women. She's really interesting. James Ponsoldt, who we had here on the show. I love James, and I think his point of view is really interesting, and he's so young, and I'm really curious again about what direction he's going to go in. And then, because we're talking about horror, we have to say Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook.
Yes.
The Babadook.
Babadook.
Which was a very creepy movie from a couple days ago. Oh, we all have like movies we've never seen, and I love doing this. Like, it was literally, I think it was only last year I had never seen The Grapes of Wrath all the way through.
Wow.
I know, the whole way, but I was like, you know what? You got to sit down and watch it. Guess what? It's a great film. But I always would come in the middle, or it's an amazing film. Everyone should see The Grapes of Wrath. The Good Earth, I cannot get through it. I've tried. If somebody wants to tell me why I have tried to get through The Good Earth, I can't do it. I'm sorry. But I have never seen the film Seven. Can't do it. Too scared. Cannot do it.
Yeah, there are
I'm sorry.
a lot of the scary movies and a lot of the gory movies. I
can't even watch it on television.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I know it's David Fincher. I think I recently met the screenwriter of the film, Andrew. I can't think of his last name. But because I'm sick, not because I have a bad memory. But
no, you've clearly proven that you have a brilliant memory when it comes to things like that.
Do you know that I never saw? I never saw Silence of the Lambs in a movie theater. I had to see it on television during the day. And again, I know you're laughing. When they had this scene where he's like, when the first time they see him, oh God. What was that actor's name? God, he was in Manhunter.
Yes,
I know.
Oh my God, and Manhunter was so scary.
And that was so scary. I had to keep leaving the room. Oh,
Levi. Is it Craig Levi?
Everyone's out there screaming. But we have a live show. Somebody call us in.
Yeah.
Call me on my cell.
Somebody text me. Tweet me.
But I had to keep like
pausing.
No, I would literally kind of run out of the room. When I did a play called Black Eagles, we were at Ford's Theater, and one night we all get the brilliant idea, like, oh, let's go to where they filmed, The Exorcist. And it was like midnight, and I got in a cab, we were down in Georgetown. It was like completely empty incident. We were like thinking, all of a sudden we were like, this is not a good idea. Like we were
in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night.
Great.
We're like, oh, let's go. And we scared ourselves sick. We got back. We were like, this is crazy. It actually worked. So I don't know. Scary movies. I mean, every time I go by the Dakota in New York.
Oh yeah,
it just has such scary connotations.
Last weekend I was visiting with my family of origin. All got together to celebrate a birthday party, and we were at this remote cabin. And every time we turned around, there was a moment where it was like, oh my God, where's so-and-so? Because it was a total scary movie moment. Like the doors creaked, and you had to go miles to find anything. We were pretty sure we were all going to get murdered.
We're going to talk to Amanda Wyss. That's what happened to her. She was the first one.
Let's bring her in.
Oh, also, since we're talking about scary movies too, we can bring her in. Yeah. But I forgot to mention how thrilled I was. Stephen King mentioned his top 20 horror movies, and Stir of Echoes is on his list, as is The Changeling, starring Melvin Douglas. So, enough about me. Now let's talk about Amanda Wyss, who began her career in the 80s, gained attention for her role, of course, as Lisa in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I listened to the commentary, as I told everyone. Oh, we're watching you on television. I'm distracted. Rose to prominence playing Tina Gray in fantasy film Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, Silverado, Better Off Dead. Please welcome Amanda Wyss. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm thrilled. And we have our mutual friend, Matt Oswald. He's we have a very, very, very high-end booker. He's the best. He's one of the funniest, We could do a show just devoted to Matt and how funny he is.
Funny.
We love Matt, and we've had him here, and we'll have him back again many, many times. But thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High with commentary. Have you ever done that?
No.
God, it's so funny. I'm addicted to commentary. I'm like, I'm the only. It's I love it. Like I'm always, even if it's a movie you're in, I think it's always interesting to see, what the director, just things that were happening or whatever.
Is it Amy's? Is she?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I
Amy's.
love her.
I know. Well, we're gonna get to that, but
Okay.
we got to start.
Okay.
I was teasing you with that, but I got to start with my favorite question, of course. Do you remember the first movie you saw and who took you to see it?
The first movie that I remember seeing was, I was in the 4th grade, and it was Allison Short's birthday party, and her mom drove us up to Hollywood to the Chinese to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That's a good one.
Hey.
I lost my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. First, I'd never been outside Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that this whole other world existed. I think I was 8. And I just fell in love with that movie, and I was like, I want to be that girl.
Yeah. Well, it's so magical.
Yeah.
All the crazy things. And what did you think of the theater? I mean, the theater itself must have been, when you see pictures of Grauman's, how it used to look and how glamorous, and I still get excited like with the handprint foot. It's so that's my favorite. Do you have a favorite Hollywood thing? That's my favorite.
That would be my favorite. Because, I've
So
had
old-timey.
It is old timey, and I love that. And it sounds like you are too, that I'm still excited by that. Like, I
my
just
God.
think it's beautiful, and I love old Hollywood, and I'm so glad that some of it has remained there.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of a shame. You're like, I'll go find one of my particular favorites is Peter Sellers. So I go find his and I step in his shoes and then do you have anyone like that? Do you have any like sort of favorites like that you feel are good luck charms?
Well, I mean, I don't know why, but I was always infatuated when I was young with Marilyn Monroe's footprints and her handprints, and everything seems so tiny. And
Yeah.
I was so taken aback by that. And
Yeah.
like, I'm sort of small, but my feet and hands were like, they're like Godzilla next to her. I was like,
They all do. They all do. They all seem like.
I know. She must have had on like 8-inch heels or something, but her foot's like that long. I was
Yes.
like, but yeah, so that was the first one I remember looking for and being mystified by how tiny everything was. Because I think still I was so young, everybody looked so big on screen. So.
Yeah, I can't even. Well, that was my first when I first came here to visit. That's all I wanted to do was go to Grauman's. I get so excited about that. And then when I was reading about you, like your break came doing theater. Like, is that Child's Theater doing The Bad Seeds? No, that's a scary.
Yeah.
It's a scary play. That's a big grown up part, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you aware of the connotations of playing the part?
No, because I was blissfully unaware. Actually, I just thought it was
bad.
fun. I know.
It's called The Bad Seed.
I just thought it was fun. The year before I did The Bad Seed, I did a play called The Innocents, which is also very scary.
That's Deborah. Yeah, the movie, Deborah
movie.
Carr.
So scary. And I played Flora, the little girl. And then the next year, I got Rhoda in The Bad Seed. And my dad tells a story that he was sitting behind a reviewer on opening night, and the reviewer said, I wouldn't let that little bitch in my house for all the money on the world.
Oh my God.
And my dad was like taken aback, and then he was like, good job, kiddo.
So your parents were encouraging of you being an actor, or it?
They were neutral.
Mm-hmm.
They were neutral. It was something I wanted to do, and they actually, like, I would arrange things. Like, when I did that play, I arranged with neighbors to drive me back and forth. Like, I was dedicated. I wanted to make this happen. Because my parents, they weren't like stage parents. There was nobody driving me around or anything. My dad came, the first couple of things I did when I needed to have a guardian, he came to one or two, and then they just hired someone. They just weren't that interested in. They thought it was great that it was something I wanted to do, but they weren't. It was all just my motor. I wanted to make
It's
that
interesting
happen.
how when you're younger, you just feel like the world needs to see me, clearly.
I have things to do.
What's the
know.
problem?
Well, and I thought it was fun. I thought, like, especially the plays, I loved the dialogue, and I loved working with all the adults. And it was the first time in my life that I was treated not just as a child. Like, people needed me to be with them. So
Right.
like they treated me with, I don't know, not like an adult, but like I was serious or something. I'm not quite sure how I want to word that, but I remember just thinking, I like these theater folk.
Yeah. And you never had a problem learning lines or anything like that?
I did. I weirdly in the bad seed, I had a harder time learning lines than I did on the innocent.
It's a huge part.
Yeah, it was just so much, and but then we just, I plodded through like one scene at a time, and I think I was overwhelmed because I didn't know the whole play, and when I really realized you could one scene at a time.
Right.
But I was like right up to opening night. I'm sure they were all like, "Oh my God, this is going to be a disaster."
No, they probably thought you were. So how did is that how you got an agent? Did somebody spot you doing that?
I got an agent, and I auditioned for a couple of things, and then that didn't really happen. But I started doing commercials, so I was sort of the blonde, beach girl in every teen or tween commercial in the late 70s into the early 80s. And then after I graduated high school, I called that same agent again and said, are you still interested? She's like, all right. So we gave it a whirl for a while, and then I moved on from there.
And so what were some of the first things that you were auditioning for? Like how did you audition for a bunch of things before you got into Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or was it
kind of
pretty easy? Or
no, I don't think it's ever easy.
Never easy.
I'm like, no,
not easy now.
I know it's not easy now. No, the
People,
first
don't you hate that when people go, you have to audition for things? That's like
Yes.
when you go home,
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm in Connecticut. I'm like, that's why I'm here at the hardware store.
I know.
Because people keep offering me stuff, and I'm.
It's so true. I know. I remember my dad or my mom once saying, "Well, why aren't you on that show?" And I'm like, "Good question, but I don't know.
know.
Like, it's not like I can call up NBC and say, "Hey,
I know.
what's happening?"
You need the little 8-year-old you to be. I should do this. So anyway, I interrupted you. You
No,
were-
the first theatrical thing I read for, and I totally remember, was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and I didn't get it, obviously, but I just remember thinking I loved the whole, I loved the story and going on the audition, and I really, and of course, because I was so young, I was sure I got it, and I was completely baffled when I didn't. So it was the first, I was like, oh, oh dear, this doesn't always go my way.
Yeah.
And then that was just the first of many of those realizations, but I was a kid, so.
And so doing the commercials, did they see tape, or was it really just auditioning and you eventually got a job
on the commercials? Or
did people look at the commercial? I mean, because it's not like
right.
now we have the internet. I mean, I don't think people could see unless they tuned in.
No, you're totally right. I keep forgetting, before we were all plastering ourselves over social media, that I think
you'd have to come in. You had to have a monologue. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. You'd have to have do a song. You had to.
Yes.
Did you have a variety of dance moves?
I did. I had they were horrible because I wasn't trained, but I had them.
Well, I know we ought to.
I thought I was
Did you do a
amazing.
little fence? I did a little fencing.
I did a little fencing. I did a little. I had a little soft shoe routine that's so
See?
sad, but that I made up myself, by the way, without any training. So I'm sure it was fantastic. But no, you know what? Just that agent got me in to read for things. The commercials, weirdly, after I did a couple when I was a teenager, that became easier. People would just call. But that was back in the day when there was not. I don't think a million people were doing them, and so they would just call and say, "You want to do a Starburst commercial?" I'd be like, "Okay," And so that was fun, and then. But yeah, theatrical was just a slog through the mud. It would go. Our agents would send us in, and.
Do you remember other people that you'd see that
Yes.
were same names that would pop up again and again?
Yeah, I was always in the hall with. It was always
I love being in the hall.
right in the
That
hall.
should be the name of your book.
Right in the hall.
In the hall.
Because that.
Oh my God! It's like I'm getting PTSD.
It was always there was a couple that have obviously gone on to great acclaim: Meg Ryan, Helen Hunt, Jennifer Tilly. Meg Tilly.
That's funny because Jennifer Tilly was in my hallway.
Yeah, okay, I know. I was like, she was in my. This sister was in my hallway. And then a couple people that aren't acting anymore. But yeah, so it was always like a rotation until people started breaking out.
Yes.
to do other things, like being picked off.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a game of a longevity.
Yeah.
Now, and you in one of the brief little things I saw with you, but you didn't explain. You said you'd worked with Robert Mitchum.
Yes. This was amazing. It was a TV movie called A Killer in the Family, and it was amazing. I think it was based on a true story, and I actually play a woman that he and his sons kidnap, and
God, lucky you.
I know, right? I was like, I know, and the sons were Eric Stoltz.
We love Eric.
James
We do.
Spader.
James Spader, oh my God.
I know, I
lucky
can't
you.
remember. Maybe it wasn't Eric Stoltz. Oh, anyways, James Spader. I think it was Eric Stoltz. And so I walk on the set, and Robert Mitchum is so. It's just so classy and beautiful, and he was still so handsome. But I walked on the set, and he jumps up, he introduces himself, and then he says, "Would you like anything to drink? Do you need a coffee or anything?" I was like, oh, I don't, but I should say yes because Robert Mitchum just offered to get me coffee. Wow. So we were in this little town, St. George, Utah, and at this crappy motel, and he was at the same motel, and he was always really had his door open, and it was like one of those ones around a pool, and he was like, if anybody wants to come in and
oh my God,
make a cocktail or whatever.
What?
Yeah.
Did you go in?
No, I was too afraid. I was too afraid. I stopped at the coffee.
Now,
I was like,
how would you have handled that, Illeana?
Well, because he was in Cape Fear.
Oh, that's right.
Because when I was going to do Cape Fear, I said to Marty, you got to do, that's the latest trend. You got to have all the originals, do little cameos.
Yes.
And so Robert Mitchum was in it, and and Sean Penn, tying it to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, he literally flew to the set and like hung out on the set, like just to watch Robert Mitchum work. It was one of his last parts. Wow. But it was the day where I was in the hospital and I was all beaten up, and I was in this long makeup, which we're going to get to you and the horror makeup and how long it takes. But I was literally hooked to this IV. And they were like, "You have to stay here." I was like, "No, I wanted there telling stories in the other room."
I know the stories.
So I came in with like.
Did you wheel in your thing?
Yeah, I wheeled in my IV.
That is commitment,
and they're
lady.
all sitting there, Nick Nolte, Robert, they're all telling stories, and Robert Mitchum. I'll never forget because this is the first thing he said to me. He looked up and I was all beaten up and I had the hospital gown and he looked at me and he goes, "You need a new boyfriend."
You're like, "Are you available?" That's hilarious.
It's like, I was like trying to cut. I said, it's all makeup. But I had to be in this horrible makeup the whole time. But anyway, he told stories. And
I found him to be so charming. And
what was it like acting with him? Did you learn anything? Or
well, you know what? He's so present and authentic, and he's just whatever has going on in here, he keeps it really still, so you're really drawn in. And I just remember thinking, because I had just gotten out of drama school, so I was like, yeah. I thought, so I watched him, I was mesmerized by him, and he was so alive, and he was an older gentleman, he was so like virile, and I found him to be, I feel like because I'm older than you, but I started young enough that I got to meet some of these amazing actors that I grew up watching in classic films, and so he was definitely at the top of the list of. And I also learned he treated people really well on the set. He was very. I don't think he suffered fools lightly.
Right.
And I found like that there were people that when people did stupid things, he didn't have time for that. But he was really engaging, and he made a safe place to play. Yeah. Which I found, that if he hadn't been that way, being him, that would have been a really horrible experience.
God, you're so lucky. But I know what you mean. It's just a presence.
Yes, it's a presence. Yeah.
And you find yourself, I wrote about this in the book, again, when you meet certain iconic people, like Brando has it. Not everyone has it. Mm-mm. Not just because they're famous. But Mitchum had it too. You find yourself just living in truth. Like you just have to. I don't know why. You just find yourself like there's no facade, and you just find yourself down to the human level of just communicating.
I think it's because they kind of have the power in the room at that particular moment. They make it safe.
Yeah.
and invite you in. They like invite you to come play. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm speaking like I do like.
No, my God,
Robert and
you
I
did
are
a
like
whole
this, and I
movie
know.
with him.
I know.
You're so
I know
lucky.
everything.
I did
So-
one scene. I was like so excited, but you did a whole movie. Okay, so we have to get to.
Wait, can I just say
yes,
something?
please.
You were brilliant in that movie, by
Oh,
the
well,
way.
thank you. Thank
You were
you very much.
amazing.
Thanks.
Amazing. Before we moved on.
Thank
from there.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I love talking about acting, and I was so inspired being, on the set, getting to work with all those people and everything. So in terms of, so how did you get cast? Like, do you remember other people? Like, how did you get cast in Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Was it?
It's just an audition, and I went in, and in the room was the casting director, Carrie Fraser, Judge Reinhold, and Amy. And they were in the room. I was really like, wait, who are all these people? Why is everybody here? What's happening?
Yeah.
And she didn't have me read. She had me do an improv with him. So she must have. I don't know why. I never asked her why. How it had come down to that. If it was just my photograph or. And I remember feeling really shy because Judge is so imposing. He's kind of big and
He's tall, yeah.
Yeah, and so we sit on
Yeah.
the edge of her desk, and he starts this improv, and then I read part of the script, and I knew that spoiler alert, I break up with him. And,
I think we've all.
no, I'm like,
You haven't seen
just
it.
in case.
Yeah.
I'm famous for giving. I'm terrible. I'm like, I'll give away at the end of a horror film, and people are in the room are like, you can't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. But so we did this improv, and then in the end, I just like broke up with him, and I guess she liked the way I dumped him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And that was magical. That whole experience was so amazing. We were all so young, and Amy was so young.
Yeah.
And she just was so cool. She's like literally like cool. And it was really, really fun to do that movie. And we all kind of hung out. Because it was Universal, we all had rehearsal time. We had,
Yeah.
like rehearsal before we started filming, which was, I don't think that's ever happened.
No, that's something that comes up on here again and again. There
Yeah.
was a certain period of time where there was actually rehearsal,
Yeah.
and people, we don't do that anymore.
No, they would tape out like on play in the rehearsal room, and
I
you'd
know.
you'd get to set, and you'd just be so loose and
I
ready to
know.
roll, and having improv a bunch,
I
and
know.
instead of doing it all at home in our bathroom mirror before we
Yeah.
get to the set.
You have like an hour to do something, and also one of the scenes you're with Ray Walston. Did you know who Ray Walston was?
I did because I grew up. We didn't have a TV often when I was a kid. Hard to say that in English. We often didn't have a TV when I was children, but when we did, we watched. It probably might have been reruns at that time,
Yeah.
but of my favorite Martian, and obviously he's done a million other things, like
Right,
brilliant
sure.
movies and things. But yes, I totally knew who he was, and I was very excited to work with him. And he was really cool. He was cool. He was kind of cantankerous, but in a cool way. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't mean. He was just like no nonsense.
Playing
and-
his part.
yeah, he wasn't really into like chit chatting with a bunch of teenagers.
And of course, it's another like really famous scene, the pizza
Oh
scene.
my gosh, with Taylor
Negron.
Who
I mean,
I
how to
loved him
kill
so
it
much.
with just like one line.
Oh my God, he wouldn't have even needed the line. That's the thing. And every time I ever saw him do anything, it's his presence. It's the way he can walk into a room and just
Yeah.
own it in some. Oh my gosh, I through the years I would go listen to him read.
Oh
And-
yeah, do stories. And,
Oh, he's just, I loved him so much. But,
Yeah.
that scene was great. And Ray Walston was not into that scene.
really?
No, I think it was just, he liked things to be more methodical. And
Right.
Sean and Taylor and
I guess that's why it's so funny.
Yeah, we're a little looser. And
Yeah.
I think it was just, it wasn't his
Were
thing.
you so when they shot it in terms of the way they shot it, was it economical? Like, did they not do a lot? Because like, did you guys laugh at all? Like when it's the wide shot and everybody's in the
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah,
I mean, everyone looks loose in it.
Yeah. We giggled a lot, and it was pretty loose. I mean, my part of the story was pretty loose. I mean, Jennifer and Phoebe had more. They were dealing with a heavier subject matter. You
Yeah.
know, mine was. I was just like the mean girl who's like just stupid or whatever, just like silly throughout the whole film. But we laughed a lot, and it was just neat things. Like Cameron Crowe was on the set a lot, and he's so interesting and cool, and his wife, and I was just like, oh my God, I love Hart. And so like I was, a teenager, so I was like,
Yeah.
I can't believe this. So there were so many good things about that, and then a lot of us have stayed friends from that movie, which is kind of neat. Like, I think that's like sometimes casting has really good chemistry, and that chemistry sticks. It's like I kind of consider I didn't go to college, so those two or three early films were sort of like a college theater department, and we've all stayed friends.
Well, I feel like that movie and Valley Girl were like my total idea of what Hollywood was going to be like. You know?
Oh, right. That I could see that.
I was like, it's and plus this was won out because then my best friend, who I met at acting school, went to like Beverly Hills High in New York. So like it did sort of, he came from that environment too, and he knew some of these people. And I remember going to Hollywood, and you'd go to a party and Sean Penn would be there with Elizabeth Perkins, and it was like,
you're like, huh?
Felt like very, very exciting.
See?
It's like when Hollywood was, it was like being in the movie business seemed like really, really kind of fun.
Yeah.
Did you sense in any way, shape, or form that Sean Penn would be known as like this brilliant, serious actor?
Right.
I
mean, was he serious off set, or?
He was very serious. You know what? I think a couple things. I think I was so young, I wasn't really even thinking beyond that film as far as like who's going to do what. But he was very intense and strong, and I knew that what he had was special. Mm-hmm. So, like, I was not at all surprised that he broke out, and still, like, every movie is like, you go, oh my gosh, it just gets deeper and crazier and better and more, I don't even know what it is he does, but it's like more authentic and he just digs into some place that's dark
I know,
and great.
He's becoming Robert Mitchum.
Yep.
And when it came out, did you like go, like what I did? Like, did you go around movie theaters?
I wish.
I totally did that.
Oh my gosh! You know what? I didn't. I
mean, that was a huge hit. Plus, it's preserved.
Yeah.
In the Library of Congress, which I think is amazing.
Isn't that mind blowing?
No, I think it's a great film. I say this every year. Everybody knows about my big complaint. AFI, no female-directed films on the AFI Top 100. I have said it again and again and again. Fast Times at Ridgemont High could certainly be on the AFI Top 100 instead of The Sixth Sense, which has been put on this year.
Oh, that's... Well, do you want to know what's interesting? And I don't know this about if you find this true, but in my entire career, I've worked with 5 female directors.
I've worked with a lot of women directors too.
No, only 5.
Oh,
I think out of like all those things.
Oh, well, you're right. I guess you know
what I mean?
You're right. You're right. I'm thinking like it's a lot.
No, but that's
right.
what's sad. Because I mean, and I worked with a mutual person who I just have like director crush on, Allison Anders.
Oh, Allison's the greatest. We love Allison.
And then anyway,
this morning.
So, she's so great.
I know, we love her.
She's amazing. But so Amy, I don't know. I thought she was fantastic to work with. I'm great, and they should put that in.
I know
the AFI.
So then after that, then what? You just started doing other. It must have led to, having an ability to.
Well, the first thing I did ever theatrically was an episode of Buck Rogers, and I played this like wood nymph Laura, who like my only lines were "I love you, Buck Rogers." I followed him around and wore a toga. I was a wood nymph on a planet far, far away. But I felt like I'd made it. I was like, I'm at, I think it was Universal Studios, and it was back in the days when they'd get you from your car and they'd take you to the hair and makeup department, and then you'd go to the wardrobe department, and then you'd be taken to your room, and it was, I just thought the whole thing was so glamorous. And then my next job, I was in like some smelly honey wig, and I was like, wait, what? What just happened? But so I did that first. So that was the first thing I ever did, and then the second thing I did was a horror film for TV that starred Parker Stevenson and Lisa Eilbacher called This House Possessed, and I played this girl in the opening credit too. Spoiler alert, I get killed by a possessed garden hose. So
wow. Okay, this I haven't. What year?
Like 1980, I think, maybe.
Okay.
And so
I was in high school.
And so it was an old Spelling Goldberg production back when they were still together. And Candy Spelling decided that she picked out my wardrobe, and so I wore in the opening scene these like satin disco shorts with pantyhose, and then
of course,
naturally,
this like disco top, and then sneakers with like sparkly socks. So I was like,
Scrunchy sparkly
yes,
socks.
and
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I grew up at the beach, like kind of hippie-esque with a little bit of preppy thrown in. I was like, I don't know what this outfit is, but okay. And so I just remember that, and I was killed by a possessed garden hose as like Parker Stevenson's name rolls through the credits, and then I like lie on the ground writhing as it strangles me. So did that, and then.
But were you doing that and going, I was just in Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
No, this is before Fast Times.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so I worked up to it. So so when I got to do Fast Times, I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
so, and then I also did an action martial arts movie before Fast Times called Force 5. And it was directed by Robert Klaus, who had directed Enter the Dragon. And I love martial arts films. It's my guilty pleasure.
Really?
I love them.
Okay.
Love them. I don't do martial arts.
Yeah.
Just so, because everybody says, oh,
But you
must
like
do-
Jackie Chan and all of that.
Yeah, and
I'm trying to
John
get
Woo.
it. Yeah, John Woo. He may be the only one I sort of could get into John Woo, the killer and
and Chow Yun Fat is like so amazing. And no, I my guilty pleasures are like ones that it's so embarrassing to say. But
No,
like,
I mean-
but I just love all the ones with Jeff Speakman and Cynthia Rothrock.
I don't know any of these, but I'm sure that Quentin Tarantino does.
I was super excited to do this movie.
Yeah.
So I played the daughter of a senator who gets kidnapped and thrown in a cult, and Force 5 comes to save me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm like in, like the epic Bruce Lee. I mean, this is like Enter the Dragon 2.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't. It was like an abomination. But and I wore like a sheet with a stamp of a bull on the chest, as that was my Mooney outfit. And anyway, I get saved at the end. And so then segue into Fast
Yes.
Times at Ridgemont High. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Okay, so yeah, I was doing some
Artistic.
some funky shit before then.
But then you got back. But you've done like a bunch of, which is the hardest thing to do is to do horror movies and not get typecast specifically for doing horror movies.
Yeah.
Like I think I only did one like out and out horror movie, and when I was going to do it, my agent like desperately tried to talk me out of it. He kept telling me, he's like, that video, but it's going to be there forever.
It's true.
It'll be, so the, but then some of them, but of course, like working with somebody like Wes Craven, that's a completely different story.
Right.
Or was it back in the day? I don't know.
Well, he wasn't totally Wes Craven yet. I mean, like, I think that movie actually, he was already on everybody's radar as this really intelligent person who was sort of reinventing the horror genre. Wasn't something that I had pursued. I'd never even seen a horror film until I did. I mean, other than This House Possessed, but I died so early. I don't even think I read the rest of the script. And but I'd started reading horror, so I'd read The Exorcist, and I really liked like scary books. But
Right.
I don't really like being scared, like watching. But my agents at the time were like, you're doing all this TV stuff. You don't want to do a horror film. And
Right.
I was like, no, I think I want to do this. And they were not happy that I wanted to do it. But I'm glad I did it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I kind of just went back to doing more television. So I think that was the reason, because interestingly, 30 years later, I'm more known in horror than I was during the time. Like, people didn't offer me horror films or anything like that. They
Right.
kind of got offered more television. So I never really equated it. And then I realized now, like, that there's this whole section of people that do consider me a horror, which is totally fine. And then the last couple of years, that's mostly what I've been doing.
Yeah, well, because there's a market for it.
There is.
And there's fans and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they revere, obviously.
They're very loyal. They're like country western, like country fans.
Music
Like,
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's that word? The after country music. Country music fans, and they're very loyal, and really, and they're really like cinephiles in a way. They really like they really dig into every horror film to figure out what it means, and
Oh, yeah.
and it's like really, they're very loyal.
Yes, I know, because the Nightmare on Elm Street house is right in my neighborhood.
Oh God, you have
So-
people there all the time.
No, not people. Always two guys all dressed in black who look kind of vaguely like Kevin Smith, and they're always in front of that, like, take my picture, dude.
Oh my God, it's
Like,
hilarious. They're usually in a Freddy sweater? Does anybody wear a Freddy sweater?
I've seen it all. And of course, Halloween is, and the house, I always feel, the people that get the house, there's no wall around it or anything like that. So.
I've heard through the years that people that have bought the house know the history. They're warned.
Yeah.
Because could you imagine why are people
No.
like photographing in front of my house dressed up like why is somebody wearing a glove like a glove with a claw on it out in front of on my front lawn? I have children. I'm frightened.
By being attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to kind of be into it.
Yeah.
Now, did you film at the actual house or was it a set? Or was
I never filmed at that house in your neighborhood. That was Nancy's house, played by Heather Langenkamp. She's the heroine. Because I don't know if you know this, but there's a hierarchy in the horror world. There's like the final girls. Those are people that survive. They're like the final girls, like Jamie Lee Curtis and Heather.
Wow.
And I always die, so I'm just the heart.
So that means
I'm
if
just the engine that gets it going.
So
and
if
then
you're
they kill me
cast in
off.
a movie, it's sort of like back in the day, you're like, oh, I know it's going to be him.
Yeah, totally.
Like a Hawaii Five-0.
If you see me in a horror film, you know.
You're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't they'll always try to make it look like I'm going to be the heroine, and then I die a vicious death somewhere through.
Well, that's Hitchcock ruined it for everybody because it's like he killed his leading lady, early on.
And that's what Wes did with me in
Yeah.
Nightmare. Like
Yeah.
he wanted it to be set up like that, and then when people have cast me in things after that, I was like, okay, we've already done this, but okay.
Well, that's another thing because that makes it hard on you. You're like, when you've already done something that's so exemplary. Now, I want to talk about the physicality of that scene and what appears to be incredibly difficult. And I don't know. And is it all you? Did you do everything or did you have a stunt person at all?
There was a stunt person that did one thing. She did
Jesus.
the drop from the ceiling to the bed.
Yeah, that was-
but I did the bed to the floor, and then I did everything else. And you know what? They built this room. Like it was at the old Desilu Studios, so it was in their big, huge soundstage there, and they built a room, and everything in the room was nailed down, shellacked, immovable, and it was on like is it a fulcrum? What's it? No, like a pivot, like whatever. I can't remember the name for it. But there was literally like two guys outside. turning
Wow,
a
that's
crank,
incredible.
and
So
the room
old
would go around.
fashioned.
Super-
So it's just like the royal wedding, the Fred Astaire.
Yes, it's totally like that. That's what it was taken from, and it's all practical effects. And I think that's the one thing about Nightmare was everything was practical. I mean, there was guys off camera with buckets of blood, and I mean, it was very practical effects. There was no.
I know that's why
special
things.
effects.
That's why I don't think the current things when they go like they ever are scary because there is a reality. Like we
Right.
can really see you.
Yep.
I read this
there.
article that when we're watching something with CGI, that our brains unconsciously says not true, not true. Like there's we register it as not at all real. Where in film,
Right.
for some reason, our brain can take you into the story that it's more true.
Yes.
I'm not saying that, right? Somebody much smarter than I wrote that
No,
article,
it's-
and I'm not quoting it correctly, but it was along those lines.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no, there's an element, just in when I've done emotional scenes of like, it feels very real. Like you're screaming and you're crying and you're
Yeah.
saying, "Oh God." I'm sure that none of that's in the script. Like you have to just.
Yeah, you just kind of in that particular scene, I got vertigo halfway through because the room is rotating, and I felt all this pressure that I'd never done a horror film before, and Wes was great because I when I read for it, I was like, and he's like, "No, I'm hiring you because I want it doesn't matter what film you're in. I just want you to be you and real and authentic and
Right.
the heart bring." The character to life. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what medium it's in. And I was like, because I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I was young, like that there was some different technique or something with horror films. But so I had to propel myself as if I was being dragged, and then the room would fold over and then would fold over to the next. So I was always on the floor, but halfway through the scene, I literally freaked out. I started screaming. I'm like, I'm falling. And there's this great photo of Wes poking his head up through the window that was on the floor. And he's just standing there. And he's like, look, you're on the ground. And I couldn't get up. I was like, if I move, I'm going to fall. And as he was talking to me, he went, oh my God, I'm so disoriented. I totally get it. He goes, all right, let's just take this slow. And so, because they were going to start introducing blood, and we had to do it. We couldn't go back. This was all done in pieces, but it was one. Yeah. We didn't get to go back and didn't get to do it in a bunch of different takes. So anyway, we got it done, and then when it was done, I felt really wow, I really accomplished something. I don't know, I beat my inner ear. I don't know. It's
no, it's incredible.
But it was really. But I think there was something about that character, and I don't claim to know the secret to cinema or what makes a movie work or a genre film work, but that scene, the way that character, my character played in that scene, she's so sad. I mean, it's just kind of, I think really good horror is always sad. It's always intrinsically sad because that's what hooks us, and then we follow the story, and then there'll be scares along the way, but it's not just chop them up and hack them up. Oh, I saw her boobs or whatever. I think that it's more sad, I think. But so I think that character's really sad, so I think it hooked people, and I playing a 15-year-old that literally dies for 20 minutes. And so by the end you're so worn out, and then you realize that the movie's just started. Yeah, so it was kind of a really interesting
because the guy is helpless. There's nothing he can do, and you're asleep, and
I know. He's just laying there. He's like, Tina, wait, what?
Wake up!
Wake up!
Why can't you wake up? No, it sets you up for the rest of the movie. So you were, again, I only did one movie like that where we had to be, and again, it was just blood, working with the blood and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is it you're covered with blood, you got to go to, go to lunch?
Yeah.
I did the horror movie I did was called Otis. And luckily for me, I didn't have, Kevin Pollak had most of the blood.
I love him.
He had darts stuck. He was all,
Fantastic.
I always think it's fun to go places when you're all gnarly or,
Yeah, we took lots of photos.
Yeah, it's just kind of fun. And I remember one time, Robert Englund, it took hours and hours to get into that makeup, so he had to eat so daintily. But we went somewhere and he had but we'd forget about it, and people were like, "Wait, what?" And so I don't know. We were young. We thought that was funny. But I'd done an episode of a show called Cold Case where I played a burned woman from a disco fire. Disco is a recurring theme in my career, apparently.
Yeah.
But I went to the commissary for lunch, and I'd forgotten I had it on, and people were like, and I was like, and then it was just kind of funny. It makes you want to limp or something, alms for the poor.
No, we did that on a live. We were covered. We did the plane crash for 2 months. So for 2 months, I had a head wound and a broken nose, and. Yeah, like you said, there are pictures of us on the set, hi. And people, when you show them, people are like, why would you show this to me? I got a great picture of Josh Lucas with his brains hanging out, and it took a week to shoot. So every morning it'd be but that's the thing, people do not think it's funny.
I know, but we think it's funny while we're doing it. It's there's a picture of, I know, that's true. There's a photo of me on the set of Nightmare holding a cigarette in Robert Englund's, I guess he's doing makeup or something. Yeah. And I have this look I don't remember doing it, but somebody posted the photo for Halloween, and I was like, children at home, don't do this.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating smoking. Don't go crazy on Twitter at me. But it's the funniest photo, and I'm sure at the time we thought it was hilarious that he couldn't use his hands. He had his claw on or whatever. And
oh my God.
Yeah, it's.
Did you get to have any interaction with John Saxon at all?
Yes, I have. He is so lovely. Talk about having great stories.
Yeah.
He's worked with everyone from Marlon Brando to oh my God, you name a movie star, he's worked with them, and he's so lovely. He's a truly lovely man. And, I'm glad I got to work with him and that we stayed in touch through the years.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's a nice man.
Have him come on the show. He'd be great.
Oh my God, he'd be great on your show. His stories alone are
Set it up,
Yeah,
Amanda.
okay.
I love John Saxon. And did you work with, I know, Mary Magdalena, the producer? Did you have a fun time with Mary?
You know what? I never met her.
She was post?
Yes.
Oh,
until
okay.
I just went to the Women in Horror Film Festival.
I love it.
with
Got to get in on this.
with Heather Langenkamp and Mary and Marion Magdalena.
Yes.
Marianne Magdalena. And I'd never met her till then. So all these years I've heard of her. She's been
Yeah.
a part of my universe, but
Very chipper, and
Yes.
you never know.
No.
Yeah, we're gonna kill someone today.
yeah, she's how do you know her? Do you know her?
Because it's a very long-winded story that I won't tell, but I met Wes at a party, and a calamity occurred with me. I was wearing a sequin dress.
Were you flouncing? Did you flounce in the room?
Oh,
Is that what
no.
happened?
It was crazy. I was at someone's house, and Mary had invited me to, and somehow my sequin dress got attached to the person's couch.
Oh my god.
And I could not. I was literally like,
It's a scene from one of your movies.
yeah. I was like, oh my god, this is my worst nightmare. Why is this thing happening to me? I'm there's famous people here, and I cannot. And my friend thought it was so funny, and he started like, and it was like a Marx Brothers thing. We were rolling around, and literally the next day, Mary Magdalena said, Wes Craven wants to put you in the movie Cursed, which was this movie that he did for Miramax. And let me tell you, that movie was cursed.
Oh, really?
I was in the movie. We shot again, and ultimately I ended up on the cutting room floor, and they redid the entire movie. But
God.
it was a funny. It's gonna be. It almost made the book. It's gonna make the next book.
Making it
Okay.
Because it was like. But he was very nice, and I loved Mary, and it was,
Yeah.
but it was hysterical. But I used to say, like, you should not call a movie cursed, because.
Oh my God, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Oh my gosh, that's a terrible thing to be cut out of things. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, but he was when I met him, he was very funny, but when we
Yeah.
worked together, he was very dry, and I was completely unexpected. I thought it was like he wanted me to be funny. I came in like I had all these jokes planned, and he was just looking at me like, this is not funny. Like Skeet Ulrich and Christina Ricci, they were like, who are you? Like, this is a horror movie. This isn't like a sitcom.
That's very funny.
But anyway, so I want to get to other movies.
Okay.
What about working on Silverado? The great Lawrence
Yeah.
Kasdan. That's a really underrated film.
It is. I agree. That is hands down the most amazing experience I've ever, even to this day, had on a set. And his script was so beautiful, and John Bailey, the cinematographer, was amazing, and his wife, Carol Littleton, I think, was the editor, and
Yes.
like, everybody was there in Santa Fe while we were filming, and we had dailies every night, and it was a really cohesive group of people. And I mean, the actors were so amazing in this movie, and everyone hung out, and I mean, just even beforehand, just the beautiful clothes we got to wear, and things
Yeah.
that they found authentically from the period, and the attention to detail. And every Saturday night after wrap, there was a dance party, because they had just finished the
love
Big
that.
Chill, and
Yeah.
so we'd have a Motown.
You had Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner.
Yes, and we'd have a Motown dance party, and different people. It was literally magical. And I remember Brian Dennehy talking to some of the younger actors one night at dinner, saying, you guys need to really, really take this in, because it is never like this. Like, this is unique, and it's special. And he was right. And I'm so proud to be in that movie. I mean, I have such a small part in it, but I'm so happy to have been in it and get to have that experience, and work with such amazing people. And I mean, it really was magic. It was magical,
Yeah.
and it was so beautiful, and I had fun. But up until the moment that I got there, my little sister, this is back in the day when friends could walk you to the gate at
Yeah.
the airport. I was saying, I know they've made a mistake. They put my headshot with somebody else's resume, and they've made a mistake, and I'm going to get there, and they're going to be like, wait, what? I was totally sure that they'd made a mistake. And based on when I went to audition for this film, I went in, and then the initial breakdown, or whatever, I don't think they called him that back then, but it was like the character Phoebe that I played was like model beauty. And so I go in to meet with oh God, I forget her name, the huge casting director at Warner Brothers. But anyway, is our name Wally Nacita.
Yes.
So I walk in and I go, listen, I totally respect you, and I think this script is amazing, but I don't think we should waste each other's time because, obviously I'm not a model. And she just looks at me like I'm like 22, and she just looks at me and she goes, get out of my office. And I was like, okay. And she goes, I want you to go outside, make an attitude adjustment, and when you're ready, knock on my door and come back in and let's start this over. And I was like, oh, this isn't going how I thought. I thought we were going to have like this conversation about, so I go out and I'm just standing out inside the door and I'm like, has enough time passed? Does she really want me to knock again? So then I'm just like, she doesn't answer right away and I'm like, fuck. So then she finally goes, come in, and then I read for it, and then I came back again, and then I got the part.
Oh my God, I got goosebumps. What an amazing story.
But I was just standing outside
thank
the
God
door.
for her.
I know. Because I just thought that I was just being helpful.
Yeah.
But, come on. You're going to cast somebody that's not me.
You got to leave all that stuff out the door.
Yeah.
When you come in, Ruth Gordon it all the way.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
Yeah, she totally, obviously I never did something like that again, but she was just so funny. She just looked up and she's like, get out.
I love that she did that to you.
She did.
You got a second chance.
Totally gave me a second chance, and then I got the part, and it was amazing, and it was my part. Like, that was the thing. Like, when I got there, it was mine to play. And so I don't know why I did that. I think I was just young, and it was literal, and I thought, and I haven't never done that since. I don't even care if it's a man, and I'm like, I can do
it's hard.
It is.
It's tough either way. Okay, we got to get to Roddy McDowell, my uncle, as I call him, my Uncle Roddy.
What did you work with him on?
I never worked with him. I devoted an entire chapter to him in my book, but we became friends, and he's amazing, and I learned so much from him.
Amazing.
Just from, he was a child actor, and when I knew him, he was, older, and like he never took any part for granted. And again, I saw him in this movie, and it's sort of silly. He's this crazy doctor. I don't know what he's doing, but
This movie is crazy. but he was amazing in it, and he plays it so beautifully.
Yeah, he's like so serious.
I mean, how do you?
What's with the monkey?
It's a
I was
about
watching it.
An irradiated baboon.
Okay, yeah.
And
I'm glad you said it, not me.
It's an irradiated baboon, and the classy, dignified Roddy McDowell is in this film, and it's just so. But it's
totally straight.
Totally straight. He plays it beautifully, and it's basically like a Dungeons.
Operating now.
I know.
Yeah.
Somebody did a thing on YouTube of all the walkie-talkie stuff because we're playing this game. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, basically.
Yeah.
We're like science students, and he's our professor, I think, and we're all running around the halls of this science lab.
Yeah.
The irradiated baboon Shakma escapes, but we all have walkie-talkies. So, or I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know how you hold a walkie-talkie. That's the universal for any talking device.
Right.
But it's actually like this. You're right. So.
It's more visual than bat phone.
I need to go back to mime school, but
or your fencing.
Yeah, my fencing. Oh my gosh! So there's somebody put together all the times that we all go, "Are you there? Over? Are you there? Over? Are you?" And they cutting to Roddy. Are you there? Over? And it's set to a song, and I was like, that is way better than the movie. So if anybody wants to see it, it's amazing, and it was the best editing. So and I loved working with him, and he was lovely, and I wanted to say every day, like, why are you here? Like, seriously, because he's so amazing, and I've seen every movie he's ever done, and it's just everything he does that's artistic or did, and he's amazing.
Yeah. No, he was incredible. Again, when I knew him, he'd go out, I mean, I was in shock. He'd go audition for episodic work, and here he was, and, How Green Was My
Valley, like one of my all-time, wasn't he amazing in that? Oh
yeah, he's incredible in everything, and he just had a great. That's why I said I learned so much from him of just about the longevity and just wanting to work and
being really open to whatever came his way. That if it wasn't a great film, that to just still stay committed to it. And I've always thought that, like, my motto is, because I've done some crazy movies that I thought would die, but because they invented the internet, they haven't died. But damn the internet. But I always just say I'll at least be the least smelly fish in a pile of fish. Like, I'm gonna go in this balls out like I'm doing a Scorsese film, and that it doesn't matter what the movie is.
Yeah.
And, because creatively, then I'll at least have fun or have created something or gone down the rabbit hole in some cool way.
Yeah, I think that people forget that when they look at a movie and that it becomes schlocky or that we make fun of. It's like, I don't know anybody who's ever gone in. Except I did one time in my life, Jennifer Tilly and I did participate a little bit in making fun of Bell Mafia while we were shooting it because we knew it was going to be bad. So we did put little hidden things in, but other than that, like you just try to like, I mean, you know, you I remember like riding home from Otis. I'd be like, do I have fake blood in my car now? God damn it. You know, and like you're trying to really do these things seriously and prepare. And when you cry, you have to cry. And, you know,
because you still want to be, you still creating the character to help propel the story forward or just to, it's still fun to immerse yourself or oneself in the role. And I know when people will criticize everybody and it's like nobody showed up there hoping to make a bad film,
right?
And you do the best with what's at present at the time, and you know you need your health insurance. So
that's true.
Sometimes
the last question I was going to ask was about how the horror movie genre has changed because like with CGI, and it's true, it's so hard to make it. Like, I like horror movies, and I would have nothing against doing a horror movie, but when I read some of them, I'm like, well, that's not fun. You know, or like, no, I'm not going to be covered with rats. And you know, like, so it's not psychologically fun.
No. I think there's a couple things that have changed. I think people are trying to write better for women in the genre because it's such a female-driven genre, but it's a victim female-driven genre, and that's part of it that I've never really cared for. But they're trying to write. I've come across scripts in the last couple of years that they're trying to write better for women. That a woman is a complete person like a man is in films. Like that isn't always just, I know, right? Because it's always like you're the horror girl, so you're gonna die, or she's the bitch, or she's the one, she's the dumb one, or they're. I have found that, I mean, that's not just the horror genre, but they're just trying to write more well-rounded roles for women, and that not everybody's a victim. Because somebody had asked me once something about, you know, that there's so many great roles for women in horror, and I was like, well, there's a lot of leading roles for women, but they're often just the least victim-y of the victims in the film, and but they're starting to write more roles where it's a great story and it would stand up in any genre in a way that it just happens to be in the horror genre.
Right.
So I'm drawn to those scripts. So I feel like people are really, I mean, and there's just so many different horror. There's slasher horror. There's, you know, psychological horror, which I'm more drawn to the more psychological thriller horror stuff.
Yeah, those are the ones I love.
Yeah, so I like that, and those are the ones I get to do a little bit more of. And then, but I think like anything, and I think more women are starting to direct horror films, which is, I think, adding a little bit more color, a little bit more dimension in some ways, and not that men don't add dimension. It's just, I just think, you know, it creates a balance that maybe there's a different perspective within this genre that is starting to be more explored, I think, right now, which is nice.
Are you a fan of Hitchcock and his, you know?
Yeah. Because I heard you guys talking about The Birds, like one of my all-time favorite.
Oh, God, I love The Birds. His parts for women were really, like, they weren't, you know, they were really interesting. You know, Marnie is a movie that's really interesting. The women always have great parts in his movies, even though terrible things are happening to them.
Yeah.
But they're always like, did you ever see the Hitchcock thing? It was from the television show where the wife kills her husband with a leg of lamb.
No.
Oh my God, that's a good one. She kills her husband with a frozen leg of lamb.
Oh, I so need to find this.
That's a good one. Just, I guess, just Google. And then, of course, eats, you know, that's the last thing. She's eating it.
It's the murder weapon.
Oh, my
gosh.
I
I loved all of those. All right, current projects. What are you working on these days?
I'm working on, right now, a movie called The Orchard. That it's a thriller about a family. Jay Moore plays my husband. And
Jay Moore, we love Jay.
Oh, I love him. He's so nice. And Henry Rollins is in it, and Tom Sizemore, and Sean Patrick Flannery. And Jay and I move our older daughters, they're late teens, to this place called The Orchard, thinking that we're going to have a better life. And then nothing turns out to be what you think it is. And there's a lot of twists and turns that it's really good. And then at the end of the year, I shoot a horror Western. It's kind of like a home invasion, but set in a Western town. So we'll see.
Wow.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And then, you know, I don't know. I don't know what after that.
That sounds like very busy to me.
I know. So I'm super grateful. I'm super grateful. I have a comedy coming out called Triggered that sort of it's a little bit like Scream Queens. It lampoons political correctness, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
The script is anyway, and so we'll see what happens with that, because it could be it's. You know, hopefully it has an audience. We'll see.
Well, you know, it's really tough. As I'm supposed to be ending the show.
Oh,
but
sorry.
I keep
Well,
talking.
I'm talking
no,
too
no,
long.
I
No, it's
keep.
fine.
But I was saying, like, you know, when Jamie Lee Curtis lampooned her mom in Psycho and Scream
Yeah.
Queens doing that, and I was like, you know, I was very on the fence of like, I don't know, because horror in a weird way is such a sacred genre.
Yeah.
That do you ruin your own credibility?
Yeah.
Then it's tough.
Yeah, this is definitely
It's tough.
there's something that I was trying to walk the fence on, and so we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, because
We'll
you
see.
have to maintain a believability
Yeah.
in these situations. I mean, you think of Christopher Lee.
Yes.
He would not have. He would not have lampooned.
No.
And I was watching a lot of Christopher Lee. You know,
So beautiful.
movies, of course. Did you? I never watched Dark Shadows before. TCM was doing a whole Dark Shadows run.
Oh, you know what? It
was fascinating.
I saw an episode when I was a child, and I still remember it, and I still think about it, and it was so impactful. It was a little baby dressed in those old-timey rompers with the buttons, banging on the door saying, "Mommy, let me in." It was a baby, and they were on the other side of the door, and he was, "You can't let her in because I guess it was a demon or something."
God.
And I remember I still think about that scene, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but I've never actually seen the show. I was probably like 5, and I was like, oh my God.
That was one of the shows that my, wretched older sister used to make me watch all
see?
the time.
We come full circle.
Yes, we
It's
do.
Dark Shadows.
Look for Amanda in her upcoming films, The Sandman,
Oh, right.
Big Legend, and The Id. You can find Amanda on Twitter at _Amanda Wyss, WYSS, and on Instagram at Amanda Wyss, and her website is amandawyss.com.
That's right.
Thank
Easy
you,
to
Amanda.
remember.
And you can find Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper,
That's
in
right.
bookstores and online. It's now out in paperback. It's also fantastic on Audible. Get it, read it.
You can hear me.
Check out our Facebook page, and
Yes.
the website for the show is illeanaspodcast.com. There's more information there if you need to know
Please, keep writing us in, writing letters and the tweets. We love it. We'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. And like I always say, everyone's life is a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's true, right?
I like that.
And this is the end of our podcast. Thank you, Tamara. Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks,
Thank
Amanda.
you for having me. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.